So growing up, my family had one rule. Actually, it was my dad's rule for family vacation road trips, and it was simply this: vacation starts when you leave the driveway. Right? Vacation starts when you leave the driveway. And so for my dad, that meant that it was completely valid to stop for ice cream before you ever even got on the highway. For my dad, that meant, some of you talk about being a people person. My dad is like, whenever you say that, somebody says that, I think, well, not like my dad, right? There's levels to this thing. So my dad, for him, like vacation starts when you leave the driveway. Means that at rest stops, this is an opportunity to make friends and have extended conversations. Like my dad, I remember we were pastoring a church in Colorado, and someone showed up to our church and like, hey, how'd you find out about us? These things. Well, we met your parents at a rest stop in Hays, Kansas, and they invited us to church on Sunday. Like, that's a whole different kind of deal. But for my dad, that meant like we stop and we take our time on the journey. That's one way for vacation to start when you leave the driveway. For some of you, you're hearing that, and it's like, no. Whatever that time says on the GPS, that's the estimated arrival time, that's the time to beat. I need to figure out how to beat that challenge, accept it. So the thought of ice cream before you get on the highway, long pauses at rest stops, it's like you're getting hives just thinking about that kind of way of traveling. I know because I'm one of you. Here's the other way, is the right mixtape. A mixtape that sets the tone right out of the gate. Because here's the thing, in life there's always a mixtape. There's mixtapes that take us back, that help us remember songs that existed in certain moments in time. There's songs that help vacation start right when we leave the driveway, because it's getting us ready for the destination all along the way. The problem is there's always another mixtape. There's always something else that's playing in our lives. There's always another mixtape, and it is on repeat in our lives. And our mixtape shapes us. It shapes how we see the world. It shapes the way we make decisions. It even shapes how we think about God and how we think God thinks about us. Our mixtape is the soundtrack of our lives. It's words spoken over us, to us, and about us. It's our wins and losses. It's the things we've gotten right, the mistakes we've made along the way, and it's all the noise that's around us all the time, and it's on repeat, and it's shaping how we live our lives. And so we often think about the voice of God as a still, small voice, and that's true. But what if God could also speak through a mixtape that we could trade for whatever mixtape it is that we've been listening to, and we could put that tape in, and we could crank up the volume and let that live above and operate above the noise of our lives, letting that set the tone for the journey. And that's exactly what Summer Mixtape is. It's become a tradition here at Countryside, a summer tradition where each summer we take a set of psalms and we listen to what God has to say to us through those psalms. It's a rhythm of giving attention to the mixtape that we've been listening to, paying attention to the songs, the stories, the conversations, the words that are shaping our lives, those things that are on repeat in our lives. And it's a rhythm of allowing God to give us a new mixtape as the soundtrack for our lives. And so here we are launching Summer Mixtape Volume 3, and it's a road trip mixtape. It's a mixtape from one of my very favorite sections of the book of Psalms, from a beautiful section from the book of Psalms. Beautiful, not just because it's full of beautiful language, but beautiful because of the purpose for which those psalms were gathered together. 15 psalms that served as a road trip soundtrack for the people of God as they journeyed to Jerusalem for worship. A set of psalms called the Songs of Ascent. And so for the people of God, as they set out on this journey, it was just that they're heading out on another road trip. They're on a pilgrimage. And the Songs of Ascent weren't written as 15 songs as a soundtrack for this particular journey. These are 15 songs that are carefully and intentionally selected for worship along the way. Songs that were picked because of the content. Songs that set the tone for the journey that the people of God were walking. And so this morning, we're starting with the first three of the songs of ascent, Psalms 120, 121, and 122. They're short psalms, so we're not going to be here, into the afternoon. They're dense and they're beautiful. But in these first three songs of ascent, they fit together in a really beautiful way. And together, they accomplish a couple really important things. One is they give a picture of the whole journey that is about to be taken. And then they set a tone for the journey that's ahead as they hit the road. So imagine you're on your way to Jerusalem. You're joining in this pilgrimage journey. You're walking with the people of God, heading toward Jerusalem for worship. You're just leaving the driveway. The checklist that you've been running in your mind of who all do I need to make sure is with us? What all do I need to make sure is with us? Do we have appropriate travel plans? Do we know where we're going to stop along the way? Are we ready to go? Do we have what we need? You're running the checklist, probably already a bit worn out before the journey even started. And so maybe, like my dad would say, vacation has started when you left the driveway, but let's be honest, you're not yet in vacation mode. You're still thinking about all the stuff that you've been working through. There's still stuff from where you live that's going to take some miles before that starts to fade. Right? Some miles before your mind can let go of the noise of your life, the busyness of your life, the things spoken, the things you're experiencing, the soundtrack that you experience day after day after day. It's going to take some miles before those things start to be released. And then a song starts. And at first, maybe you're not even paying attention to the words of the song. It's actually just part of the overall background noise, but then there's a lyric that catches your attention. And this first song of ascent, isn't a song about the destination. It's actually a song about where you're starting from. I call on the Lord in my distress, and he answers me. Save me, Lord, from lying lips and from deceitful tongues. Not exactly a catchy lyric, but it's going to catch our ear, isn't it? This psalm, this first psalm in this set of psalms, Psalm 120, has three components to it. One, it's got a testimony and a prayer and then a warning. The testimony is simply this. It's what God has done. It says, I have prayed. I call on the Lord in my distress, and he answers me. What a beautiful testimony, a one-sentence testimony of a journey lived in a relationship with God. Here's what I know about the way this works, that when I ask God for help, he helps me. And then a prayer, another simple prayer, save me, Lord, from lying lips and from deceitful tongues. The world around me, the people I'm in a relationship with, I have been wronged in so many ways. I can't trust what I'm being told. I can't trust what's being said about me. And God, I need your help to filter through and to work through all of that. It's a prayer that's rooted in past answered prayers, and it's a cry for truth when there's lies all around. And then a warning. Actually, maybe one of the only times you see something like this in Scripture where, so the audience, it's the psalmist is writing first sentence, writes to people who need to hear that God answers prayers. And then he speaks, next sentence, he speaks to God, who is the one who hears and answers prayers. And then the psalmist has an audience that I'm not familiar with maybe existing anywhere else in Scripture. He starts talking to tongues, not speaking in tongues. He's talking to tongues. And he says this, what will he do to you, and what more besides, you deceitful tongues? He will punish you with a warrior's sharp arrows, with burning coals of the broom bush. You have caused so much pain, deceitful tongues. When we've been on the receiving end of that kind of work, we know that a deceitful tongue can be sharp. It can cut. It's a piercing kind of weapon, but it's also the kind of weapon that leaves wounds that last for a long time. Right? So there's the immediate pain, and then there's that burn, the pain that goes on and on and on. And so here's this moment where the psalmist is looking and saying, you tongues, you have tongues who have operated like weapons with deceit. Now you're going to experience sharp arrows from a warrior. You're going to know what it feels like to have that stabbing pain. And then this very specific threat of burning coals from a broom bush, which was a plant that was well known, a tree that was well known for the density of that wood. And so it would have burned hot and burned for a long time as coals. And so it wasn't just like, it's going to be hot for a little bit. It's like coals on the tongue. It's the longest burning coals that the psalmist can think of, the hottest burning coals that the psalmist can think of. It's like, first it's arrows, and then it's coals from a broom bush. And tongues, you know what that means. The punishment seems to fit the crime. Woe to me that I dwell in Meshech, that I live among the tents of Kedar. Too long have I lived among those who hate peace. I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. These are words for those moments when what you want is so completely different than what everyone around you seems to want. The psalmist is crying out to God. The psalmist is crying out, saying, God, I long for something, for peace, and it's well-being is what he's describing. And yet when I speak, it's like everyone around me is just ready for a fight. I have no one to talk to. I'm alone, and there's deceitful tongues, and I'm experiencing all these kinds of things, but God, no one wants what I want. And it's important as this journey starts out for the people of God to acknowledge that they are not like everyone around them. That there are things they want that aren't like what the things that people around them want. That they are different and unique in what they long for. That the things that their hearts cry out for are different. That the culture and the world around them will not understand the things that they are chasing after. And so as they start to talk about something that they're longing for, it's like those around them can't even understand it. They just talk about the thing that they're interested in talking about. So in this case, it's peace and war. But it's this in opposition, these very, very different desires for life. And so it's important that they talk about it. Actually, maybe even helps them kind of clear their minds as they're beginning this journey. It's important for them to talk about this and acknowledge the hard stuff about their lives. But this cannot be the only song they sing along the way. Right? We understand this. We know all too well how natural it is for us to want to put a song like this on repeat. God, no one understands me. No one around me. This culture, this world, the place I live, no one seems to care about you like I care about you. No one seems to want what I want. Look at what's happening in the world around us. We put that song on repeat. But here's the thing, just because it's natural for us to put a particular song on repeat, it doesn't mean that it's a good idea or it's good for us to put that song on repeat. A couple of years ago, our middle daughter, Lauren, had just started college. And so one of the things about college, she was in college in Indiana, one of the things that is fun about college life is road trips. Now, she was in Indiana, so a road trip in Indiana is a 3-hour drive, right? Out here, that's like a grocery run. But in Indiana, 3 hours is like, you gotta go buy snacks, and you might want to bring a blanket and all kinds of things like a pillow. It's a 3-hour drive. Are you kidding me? This is gonna take forever. And so she and her friends planned this road trip back to visit the home of one of her friends. And so she goes on this first college road trip of her college career. And so I'm asking her after the trip was over, I said, Lauren, how did it go? She said, Dad, it was awful. I mean, well, road trips are fun, right? It's part of the college experience. And she said, Dad, no, it wasn't just a road trip. It was, like you talk about something turning into a hostage situation. This is what that was like. And I'm like, okay, Lauren, tell me more about this experience. And she says, so I was not in charge of the music. Okay. So I said, okay, all right. Everybody has different tastes. It's, you just kind of that's part of the deal. You're maybe hearing songs that you might find something you like listening to. She said, no, Dad, listen, here's what they did. The one who was in charge of the music for this road trip made a playlist that was every version of the song Last Christmas that she could find. And like, how many could there possibly be, right? And like the Wham version, that's got to be the one, right? She said, oh, no, like Taylor Swift has a version, and all these, like there's all these, you'd be shocked how many people have sung the song Last Christmas. She said, over the course of this road trip, we actually ranked the top 41 versions, like ranked them from first to 41st place, the versions of the song Last Christmas. She said, so same song, different voice, same song, different music, all these things. And so she, over and over and over again. Don't do that. Some songs are not intended. It can be different voices, but you don't need to hear the same song over and over and over again. Psalm 120 is a good psalm to help us understand where we're coming from, but it's not the psalm we put on repeat. Psalm 121, that's a song you put on repeat. Psalm 121 has a totally different tone. Psalm 121 has two speakers in it, two different audiences. One, it's a statement made by someone as an act of worship. And then there's someone who responds to that statement and reminds them who God is. If you're going to put one of these songs on repeat, put Psalm 121 on repeat. Listen to this opening statement. I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. All right, that's an opening statement. We need to remember that statement. This is a testimony being made by someone who's worshiping and glorifying God with their lives and with their words. And then the structure of this particular Psalm 121, it shifts. Now, that has been said, and then someone responds to them. So if this was a worship service, it might be that you would say those first lines, and then someone from the platform would look and say, he will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. Put that on repeat. Spend time around people who will speak those words to you. When it's so tempting to get caught up in nobody understands and nobody wants what I want, remember who God is. Remember what he's done. And so in this first set of songs of ascent, we have this acknowledgement of the tension, Psalm 120, the acknowledgement of the tension of where they are. Psalm 121, remembering and reminding each other who God is. And then Psalm 122 anticipates the arrival in Jerusalem. Right? This is, within these first three Psalms, there's the whole story of the journey that they're about to take. And you can feel the tone shift as they anticipate arrival in Jerusalem. I rejoiced when they said to me, let us go to the house of the Lord. Our feet are standing in your gates, Jerusalem. They're anticipating arrival. It's as if the stuff that was all in their minds as they were leaving home has faded. And as they come to the beginning of this third song and these songs of ascent, it's and now I'm so glad I took this trip. I'm so glad that I'm now setting foot in the place that God has called me to be. Our feet are standing in your gates, Jerusalem. And as they're journeying towards Jerusalem, they're anticipating arrival, and there's three things they're anticipating. One shows up in Psalm 122, verse 3. Jerusalem is built like a city that is closely compacted together. And some of us think Los Angeles. Some of us think New York City, and we're like, we live where we live because we don't want a city that's closely compacted together, right? That doesn't sound like anything peaceful at all, except that the psalmist is saying it's a fortified city. It's a place where there's no ability for enemies to get through the walls. It's well built. It's closely compacted because it's a safe place. It's a place where they can worship safely. And that's where the tribes go up. Verse 4, the tribes of the Lord, and praise the name of the Lord according to the statute given to Israel. So it's a place of safety and it's a place of worship. And they're anticipating. In a world, coming from a world where no one seems to care about what they care about, they're coming to a place where they're coming into a community where people are worshiping God, where they're all there for the same purpose. They're in this safe environment, and now they're worshiping God, not afraid of what people are thinking about them, not in opposition or in argument with anybody around them. They're all just gathered to worship. And then verse 5, there stand the thrones for judgment, the thrones of the house of David. Right? All of these things actually have connotations where we might, wait, we're going for judgment. Right? It's a place of justice. There will be disputes that are resolved because people are getting together. There are people who are able to speak into situations and give insight and wisdom and help make judgment about things that need to have judgment made about them. So they're gathering and they're anticipating safety. They're anticipating an environment of worship, and they're anticipating a place where rights are made, or where wrongs are made right. We need a place like that. Psalm 120 started out with a longing for peace. And now as Psalm 122 comes to a close, we hear, now we can imagine. Now we can remember what it is that we're traveling to, a place of peace, a city designed for well-being, a place of safety, a place where God is glorified as they worship, a place of justice. And so as they journey towards Jerusalem, a prayer begins to rise up in them. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you be secure. May there be peace within your walls and security within your citadels. For the sake of my family and friends, I will say, peace be within you. For the sake of the house of the Lord our God, I will seek your prosperity. One commentator, speaking of the word peace, says when we read that word in this particular passage, think in terms of well-being. Think actually in terms of the absence of want and the presence of all that is good. God, we long for your peace, not just the absence of war. God, the absence of want and the presence of all that is good. But here's the key. They're anticipating arrival in a city. They're anticipating arrival within an environment that is safe, where God is glorified, where justice is brought about. And they're not approaching it like a tourist who's curious to see what that looks like. They're not looking at that saying, I've always wondered what a place that was safe looks like. I've always wondered what a place where God was worshipped in freedom. I always wondered what that looked like. I always wondered what it would look like to be in a place, in an environment where we could deal with the stuff that stands between us in a healthy kind of way. I've always wondered what a place like that would be like. I would love to see that someday. The Psalms that are leading them on this journey aren't songs that say, here's what you can expect to see happen. There's that, and then there's also now participate in creating that kind of environment. Pray for it. Be formed along the way so you are ready to create an environment that is safe for worship, an environment that's safe for dealing with the stuff that stands between us, where lies are not tolerated. We're not have to worry about deceitful tongues and lying lips. All of that's Psalm 120 kind of stuff. We're in Psalm 122. We're working together to create that kind of environment. Pray for that to be true of the places where we live. It's a whole different tone. Psalm 120 longs for peace, but there's an element of vengeance, an element of squaring off for a fight. Psalm 122 says, God, work in me and work through me to create the kind of peace that is actually worth living in. The absence of want and the presence of all that is good. And so it's not just a journey to Jerusalem. They are being formed with every step on the journey. And so are we. And so from this first set of Psalms, we walk away with two things we can put into practice in our lives. One, pick your mixtape. This is what Psalm 120 is all about, by the way. So there is noise. And there is disagreement about how all of this should fit. There's things that are longed for that aren't the same things that the people of God should be longing for. But the mixtape keeps telling them to long for those things. Pick your mixtape. What is it that's going to be on repeat? What is it that's going to be the loudest in your life? Don't just listen to whatever is on blast around you. Choose the mixtape that creates the soundtrack for your life. For some of us, that's the out there noise. For some of us, that's the noise of some past experiences. That's words that were spoken very harshly over us. Names that we've been called, things that we've experienced, moments where we have been betrayed or treated unfairly, and we carry that with us, and it becomes the mixtape that shapes everything about how we approach life. We walk into certain experiences already ready to experience certain things because of the mixtape that's operating as the soundtrack, getting us ready to step into those situations. Choose your mixtape wisely. Pick the mixtape that's going to be the soundtrack over your life, that's going to shape the way you make decisions. It's going to help you understand how you should understand God, how you should think about God, and how God thinks about you. So pick your mixtape and put truth on repeat. Right? It is so easy to take the kinds of ideas of Psalm 120 and put those on repeat. But in reality, we are so much better when we put Psalm 121. When we listen to that instead of listening to all the noise in our lives. It could be that what we need to do is to take Psalm 121. Some of you might need to just print this out and put it on the next to the mirror as you're getting ready in the morning. Put it at your desk as you're getting ready to work, as you're stepping into certain situations. Take a screenshot of YouVersion with this psalm opened up. It's short enough you could have the whole thing on your screen. And as you're walking into different situations or as you're walking out of hard moments, you look and you say, but man, God is with me. To put that on repeat, instead of dwelling on whatever it is you've experienced, dwell on the truth of who God is and how God thinks about you and how God cares for you. Put it on repeat in other people's lives. When you're in conversation with people, remind them who God is. Remind them of what God has done for them. And then find people around you who will put it on repeat for you, who will love you enough to remind you of who God is, who will love you enough not just to listen to the things that you say are hard about life, but will remind you that God has you, that God has always had you. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore.